My name is Lorraine Carter, and at 66, I thought I had learned the shape of hardship. Then a single voice memo shattered that quiet. It was meant for my daughter's husband, a simple clip I assumed would be small talk. Instead, I heard Jenna speak of me like an obstacle to be cleared. "She's in the way, Ethan." Brooke already explained how we can transfer the deed without her noticing. "I found a place for $800 a month, and St. Augustine will take her next Tuesday," she said, her tone casual. Ethan laughed. The sound felt like ice. My hands shook and my chest went hollow. I remember being 19 and cradling Jenna with trembling arms. Her father had gone before she could smile. I had a crib and a promise. I would make sure my daughter never felt unwanted. I scrubbed floors until my fingers bled, washed laundromat's piles, and mended whatever could not be bought. By candlelight, I stitched patchwork into new hems so she could go to school with pride. I sold jewelry, borrowed against the house, even pawned my mother's old sewing machine to pay for tuition. $15,000 a year felt like a mountain, but I climbed it for her so she might stand on a higher ledge. When Jenna met Ethan, I breathed easier. He seemed steady and polite, with a job that promised stability. Their engagement dinner felt like validation for every hard year. For a time, Sunday dinners were warm and full of laughter. I let myself believe that family had arrived at last. Trouble began small. When Ethan lost his job, small requests followed. "Can you help cover the mortgage this month?" "We're behind on the car payment." I reached into savings because I wanted to help. Calls grew briefer. Messages went unanswered. Promises to call back turned into silence. One afternoon, I sat alone in a diner because they had forgotten to cancel a lunch. I stirred my coffee and felt the distance as if it were a person between us. They moved into my house, saying it would be temporary so we could be closer. At first, it felt comforting. Then the sharpness started. Ethan found fault with the shower pressure, the television, the internet. Jenna called my things outdated and began rearranging my cabinets without asking. Their offers to manage my bills felt helpful until I realized they had access to my accounts and were monitoring every withdrawal. Whispers stopped when I entered rooms, and smiles hardened. Then the voice memo, Jenna's calm plotting, Ethan's laughter, the mention of insurance and guardianship. Each word pushed me into a clarity I had not wanted. I sat with the phone in my hand, stunned. That day, something inside me shifted. I dressed in my red suit at dawn, gathered every original I owned, and stepped out determined. If they planned to write my ending, I would first write my own. The morning after the memo, the world looked ordinary, but inside me, everything had changed. I went to Willow Creek Bank at 8, the sun low, and asked, "Nora Patel for a full printout of every transaction from the last 6 months. Nora had been kind to me for years. I trusted her. She scrolled and said, "There are authorizations here." A paper with my name and a signature appeared on screen. The slant was wrong. I asked to see the original. When it was produced and I compared it to a known sample, my heart sank. It was forged. Nora acted promptly. She canceled the authorizations, froze pending transfers, and placed a fraud alert on my accounts. We opened a new account in my name alone and moved the savings. She reminded me to keep originals and not rely solely on scans. Leaving the bank, I felt a small lightness. Someone else had seen what I had heard. Next, I went to the county clerk's office where my niece Brooke worked. Her visits to my house lately had suited her nerves. She was abrupt the last time she left. I stepped into her office without warning, a small recorder tucked in my purse. Brooke greeted me with an overly bright, "Good morning, Aunt Lorraine." I sat, calm. "Brooke," I said, "did Jenna ask you to change my beneficiaries or prepare medical documents?" Her hands trembled. Tears rose. She stammered that Jenna had promised money if she helped. I pressed play on my phone. Jenna's voice filled the room, plotting deed transfers and a cheap care placement. Brooke's face went white. Under gentle pressure, she confessed. She told me about drafts, forged signatures, and fabricated reports. She had accepted money to help. I did not raise my voice. Instead, I asked her to show me everything she touched. For 2 hours, she worked with me, printing copies, locating files, and signing a written admission. By noon, I held a folder that felt like a lifeline. The forged bank authorization, fabricated medical notes, drafts of transfer forms, and Brooke's statement. I had turned suspicion into proof. I took the folder to attorney Daniel Whitman that afternoon. He read each page slowly, then looked up. "Mrs. Carter, this constitutes fraud, forgery, and attempted appropriation," he said. "We can pursue civil and criminal remedies. First, we'll secure your assets and file an emergency petition to block transfers. Then we'll prepare criminal complaints." His calm, measured plan steadied me. Daniel arranged for an independent geriatric evaluation to confirm my competence and said we would present that alongside the evidence. He emphasized timing. We would move carefully to prevent them from destroying documents or creating false narratives. I left his office tired, resolute, knowing the storm was coming and I would meet it prepared firmly. The next morning dawned clear, though inside me there was a storm waiting to break. Jenna and Ethan sat in my living room sipping coffee as if it were theirs. I had left only a small note the day before, running errands back later, so they were unsuspecting. At exactly 10 o'clock, the doorbell rang. I opened it to see attorney Daniel Whitman, 2 uniformed officers, and a notary carrying a leather case. Jenna's smile faltered instantly. "Mom, what's going on?" she asked, her voice sharp with unease. I gestured toward the couch. "It's time we all spoke honestly." Daniel began by laying out 2 documents side by side. The bank authorization Jenna had submitted, and my real signature. The forgery was obvious. Jenna stammered, "That's not—" But I cut her short. "Stop. There's more." I pressed play on my phone. The room filled with Jenna's voice. "She's in the way, Ethan. Brooke already explained how we can transfer the deed." Ethan shifted, his hands trembling. "This is a setup," he muttered, but one of the officers stepped closer, blocking his path. Daniel remained calm. "We also have a signed statement from Brooke Parker admitting to falsifying documents at your direction, and here are the fabricated medical reports placed beside an independent evaluation proving Mrs. Carter's full capacity." The silence was heavy enough to press into the walls. The officer turned to me and asked gently, "Mrs. Carter, do you wish to proceed with arrests?" I looked at my daughter, my only child, and the man she chose. Their faces no longer carried familiarity but cold calculation. Every stitch I had sewn in candlelight, every sacrifice, every long night replayed in my chest. Then resolve hardened my voice. "Yes, proceed." Jenna gasped. Ethan swore under his breath, and the officers escorted them out. My house was quiet in a way it hadn't been in months. For the first time, the silence didn't frighten me, but peace didn't last. Within days, retaliation came in a modern form. A Facebook post appeared. "My mother suffers from dementia and accused us of theft. Please, if you see her wandering, contact me. She is unsafe alone." A photo of me bent in my garden, head down, accompanied the words. Strangers commented, "So sad. Someone should step in." Others judged. Anonymous calls came at midnight. "Cruel mother. You'll die alone," voices hissed. Fake social workers knocked on my door with forged badges demanding entry. It rattled me. I phoned Daniel. He was steady. "This is noise. They're trying to build a narrative of incapacity. Don't engage. Document everything. We'll answer legally." So I did. I kept a log of every call, letter, and post. Their attacks screamed, but I built a wall of evidence and silence. Even so, when an envelope arrived one evening with the words, "You were a fool of a mother. No one will miss you," I nearly broke. I sat on my kitchen floor, the same place I had heard the memo, and cried. Then I remembered my mother's old letter tucked in a chest. Her words, "Lorraine, never let anyone take your dignity. Love protects. It does not humiliate." Reading it straightened my back. I wiped my tears and whispered aloud, "Move forward." The next morning, I called Daniel. Don't stop, I told him. Firmly, we go all the way. A week later, Daniel called with news. Jenna and Ethan want to avoid trial. They're offering repayment and distance if you drop the criminal charges. For a long moment, I stayed silent. Part of me longed for rest, an end to the endless strain. But another part remembered every forged paper, every whisper behind closed doors, every word from that memo about life insurance. What exactly are they offering? I asked. They'll return the $8,750 withdrawn from your accounts, plus additional damages. They'll agree to no further contact, he replied. Temptation tugged at me, but I knew money alone wasn't enough. I'll accept, I said slowly, on one condition. They sign a confession. It must state clearly that I am fully competent, that their claims were lies, and that their actions were deliberate. It must be made public wherever they defamed me. Daniel's mouth curved into the smallest smile. That condition restores more than your accounts. It restores your name. And so it happened. 1 week later, I held the signed confession. Beneath Jenna and Ethan's signatures were the words, "We falsely accused Lorraine Carter of incapacity. We attempted to seize her property through forgery. She is of sound mind. Our claims were lies." The money replenished what they had stolen, but it was the confession that gave me peace. My dignity was no longer theirs to smear. My truth was written, undeniable, permanent. Even so, the house no longer felt like mine. Every corner echoed with betrayal. The kitchen where I once patched Jenna's school uniforms, the garden where I had dreamed of grandchildren. Shadows clung too tightly. So I sold it. With the proceeds, I bought a modest apartment at Maplewood Gardens, a senior community filled with light, music, and laughter. Mornings, I walked in the courtyard with neighbors. Afternoons, I painted or joined book discussions. No whispers behind my back, no forged documents, just companionship. I also began volunteering at Silver Harbor Foundation, the same charity I had named as beneficiary. 3 days a week, I sat with other seniors tricked by their families, listening, sharing my story, showing them survival isn't cruelty, it is self-respect. In giving back, I discovered something new. My life was not defined by Jenna's betrayal, but by the courage I found afterward. I was building community, purpose, peace. Looking back, I know this truth. Love is not a blank check. Boundaries are not cruelty. They are dignity's armor. Generosity without limits teaches others to take without giving. To anyone listening, I offer this. Guard your documents. Keep your own voice in every decision. If family speaks of guardianship without your consent, demand an independent evaluation. Real love lifts. It does not strip away. I chose not revenge, but respect. My voice, at 66, mattered. My story was not theirs to finish. And if you hear me today, may you remember, you too are worth protecting. When the night finally wound down, I thought I could slip out quietly and at least hold on to what was left of my pride. But just as I gathered my things, the waiter came over and placed a leather folder in front of me. I thought maybe it was a mistake. But when I opened it, my stomach dropped. $1,980, almost $2,000. I froze. My name was written on the slip, clear as day. My mom had arranged the entire dinner under my account. The lavish dishes, the champagne, the extravagant desserts, it was all billed to me. I felt the blood drain from my face as I scanned the page again, hoping I'd misread it. My sister's laughter rang out behind me. "Don't tell me you can't afford it," she teased, sipping her wine. Mom didn't say a word. She just raised her glass, smiling, like this was all normal, as if my worth existed only in what I could pay for. I wanted to scream, to demand why, but instead I felt tears sting my eyes, not from the money but from the betrayal. The bill wasn't just a receipt, it was proof. Proof that in my mother's eyes I was nothing more than the one who paid, never the one who was celebrated. I handed over my card in silence. As the waiter took it, my hands trembled. Around me, the chatter and laughter continued, but I heard nothing. My mom's words echoed in my head. She's the daughter I'm proud of. The weight of it crushed me. Walking out of that restaurant, the cool night air hit my face, and for the first time, I let the tears fall. I wasn't angry about the $1,980. I was devastated that my mother thought my love could be bought, that she couldn't see me for who I was beyond the money I gave. That night, I promised myself something. I wouldn't keep playing the role they wrote for me. If I was going to be invisible to them, then I'd stop setting myself on fire just to keep them warm. And maybe, just maybe, it was time to start being proud of myself, even if my own mother never was.